Lisa.
Hi.
Hi. Welcome to the Female Startup Club podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to be talking to you today.
Yeah, I feel like it's been a while, like it's been coming for a while.
Yeah, I can't believe we're actually meeting for the first time in person when it feels like I already know you.
Yeah, lots of conversations on screen.
Yeah, the best.
Yeah.
We are having a conversation about grief and stress, chronic stress, nervous dysregulation or nervous system regulation, I guess you could also say, through the lens of your own personal story and the journey that you've been on, but also through that scientific lens now that you've gone on to, study the science behind stress and nervous system dysregulation and psychology and all these types of things in women.
All the fun stuff.
All the fun stuff. All the fun stuff that we need to know.
I sound like a barrel of laughs right now.
I mean, we're laughing. We're fine.
Yeah.
We're fine.
Yeah.
How do you like to introduce yourself? What's your one-liner these days?
My one-liner would be, hi, I'm Lisa, and I exist to help people feel more alive in this world.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Why is that the answer?
I think that's it's a culmination of everything that I've been doing in the last 4 years, and obviously the business as well with AIR, but also, like you mentioned, all of my personal, of the grief and everything, the story of the last 4 years. And it's really how I see people and see how I live my life. And if I can encourage other people to live, be more alive, then that's what I want to do.
What would that answer have been 10 years ago?
10 years ago, holy moly, I would have been, a mum with young kids, and I was probably surviving each day, and that's definitely not what I want to be now.
Do you think that's normal for women who are raising young children?
Yeah, definitely.
And professional lives and managing family relationships, the gym, the supplements.
Yeah, well, if you think I'm 52 now, so 42, I had a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. I was working full time, just running from one thing to the next. We just started a media company as well. So we were going through a startup process with that company and all of the other challenges that we had with my husband at the time. And so it was, and I thought I was coping. I was teaching yoga on the side. So
you were like, tick,
yeah,
I go to yoga.
Exactly. And, and I know what I'm doing. But it was survival mode. And that's where so many women get to, particularly now that we're having kids later. And, I always say to people, we were the first generation that were told, you can do everything. Have the career, have the family, have the amazing house. And what I've learned is you can't have everything and survive it at the same time, because something will give.
So you can have everything with an asterisk caveat, meaning you cannot have everything.
Either not all at once or not very well, or your system will crash at some point.
Got it.
Which is why you have a lot of women in their mid-40s suffering from burnout as well.
I mean, I'm not in my 40s yet, and I reckon I've had a decade of chronic on and off burnout.
Yeah. And then there's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
So for agenda for today, I would like to kind of go through into your story and that kind of background piece, and then go into the scientific lens of what's actually happening inside our body, and kind of ask all the dumb questions that are on my mind.
Yeah.
And then kind of move into the practical state of what we can actually do. What are the scientific based rituals, tools, protocols, practical things from your own experience, or even, since having that experience now, what the new research, shows and new things that are emerging.
Yep.
But first I want to ask you, if anyone's listening today who is kind of suffering from anything to do with the realm of chronic stress or burnout or grief or trauma, someone who is feeling like their insides are a bit frazzled, what is the one thing you want them to walk away with by the end of this conversation?
I think the very first thing is to understand that you're not alone, and that there are ways that you can help heal yourself, but there is not one fix-it that is the same for every person.
And it's not always easy.
And it's not always easy, but it's not always hard either. And it's not a big thing. There can be multiple small changes that you can make to your life that all add up in the long run.
Yeah. It's like it's an easy thing, but actually staying consistent and disciplined is hard.
Yeah, definitely. But I also believe that wellbeing literacy is the number one. So understanding what's going on can be enough for most people to actually identify it, because a lot of people don't. They're just spinning around, little Tassie devils spinning around and not knowing how to stop or why they're spinning. And that's the number one thing to do.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point, because I even feel like for me in the journey of understanding myself better and understanding my brain better, I've pretty much lived my whole life just thinking that, that's just the way things are, or that's just normal. And then you kind of learn or pick up some kind of insight from someone else or something you see online, and you're like, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of, the literacy around it is such a critical piece to understanding who you are and why you are the way that you are.
Yeah, and it's like anything, the more knowledge you have, the more power you have.
You are a beautiful writer. You've spoken publicly about your story, and I've read the written word, and we've definitely talked about, your story online when we've been chatting and things like that. But this is probably a deeper conversation that we're kind of going into that I don't know all the details around, and how you coped and kind of that side of it. Do you want to take us back to kind of life before your husband died, and, when you were kind of thinking you were fine, but you were actually like going around and doing all these things and being super busy, and kind of take us on the journey of the story from there?
Oh gosh, I don't know where to start with that one. I think
it's a big one.
It is a big question, and it's multi-layered, and there's not a simple answer. I truly believe that not even just as women, part of it is who I am, part of it is being a female, and part of everything is the show must go on. And part of what we do is we just get on with it. And so it doesn't matter what's going on in the background and what's going on around you. Your number one, in my case, was always my kids. And I will say that nobody I worked with or most of my friends didn't realize what was going on, would never have noticed that there were any problems in my private life. And, yes, I have spoken about it, and my husband was a lovely man, very well loved in the media world, in the community. He would have done anything for anybody. But unfortunately, he had a problem. And part of his own issues were around his own regulation of stress. And, the more I've gone down this path, the more I've understood it, and understanding that he didn't have the tools he needed. And his way of dealing with stress and, I guess, the business and everything else that was going on around him was to find a way to numb feelings. Numb not the pain, but numb the stress. And it's a little bit of an easy way out. And these things, for him it was alcohol, and that became it's an addiction. And when you're already predisposed to that, then it's a really easy way to get through each day. And he wasn't the kind of guy who got up every morning and started drinking, but by the end he would come home and it would be the first thing that he did. And it was a problem for our family, and ultimately that was his health that suffered. But like I mentioned, no one that he really worked with, no one that I worked with, no one would have really known what was going on at home.
Yeah, so there's kind of there's a piece of grief that comes after, but actually in the lead up and before, there's a different kind of, I guess grief is the wrong word, but there's some kind of emotional kind of dysregulation happening at this point in your life already.
Yeah, and grief is the right word. And in fact, it wasn't until a while after when I sat down with with a therapist, psychologist, and she pointed out to me that, everyone, and I think I was going through quite a difficult stage after he passed. And the main reason for that was because I was much further down the path than everyone else around me. And she pointed out quite rightly, she said, you've been grieving him for a long time. Everyone else is just starting now. So they don't understand that your process is different and, grief isn't linear. There's no, one day I'll feel this and the next day you go, it's all over the place. But I'd already been through all of it. And so, I'd already lost the man that I fell in love with and married and had kids with. And it was just a little bit more challenging for other people to see that.
And also, I can imagine managing grief of the external people in your life, but also then grief in the household and grief with your children, and managing how they kind of you're trying to manage the toolkit of how you need to cope, but then a toolkit for children.
Yeah. And they were always kids first, and kids, my boys, they're smart boys, and kids know what's going on. They saw it. They loved their dad, but they also could see that things weren't, necessarily right. And one thing I picked up really quickly was that as long as I was okay, they were okay, And I guess the other part with grief, because you spoke about it, is usually when we're grieving, it's not always the person. You're grieving the life you thought you were going to have. So, and that happens in many different situations. It's not just the loss of a person. It can be loss of a job, a marriage, any type of those traumas. The grief you're going through can be much more to do with grieving the life you had envisaged, because that's what's disappeared. And you've got to really reassess everything that's going on.
I was listening to a podcast, I think it was on Huberman Lab, and he was one of the doctors was talking about how when you're trying to process grief, there's kind of an exercise where you can, you have to sit and feel the emotions and this kind of thing, which as an ADHD brain, I'm like, but what does that actually mean? How are you sitting and feeling the emotion? Like, explain it to me. But he was talking about how, and it's very difficult to do, you have to kind of practice and build the muscle of moving away from counterfactual thinking, because when you are envisioning
just me.
envisioning the future, that isn't, fact, and it's not your episodic memory of, things that have happened in the past. It's that forward thinking. And I'd never actually heard that before. And I was like, oh yeah, it's kind of stopping that loop thinking, which is difficult when you're thinking about the future life that you would have had, or the lives of your children and their dad and that kind of thing. And
yeah,
for you, did you do that process? Did you go through that as a practice?
Well, that's where I really believe that the yoga practice that I had really helped, because I was quite comfortable to sit and meditate and feel my feelings. And one thing that you can do within meditation is understand where the emotions are hitting you. Is, how do you feel them in your body? Where are they coming out? Is it, for me, it was this heaviness and feeling like my solar plexus was going to explode. But for somebody else, that can feel quite different. And it's not necessarily tears or anger, and it's really identifying how that can be in each person, and understanding in yourself as well. So I could sit there and say, I'm really feeling this, and I would allow myself to cry or feel anger. And I had a lot of anger. Anger was probably the biggest emotion that I had, and that took a long time.
And is that part of the kind of, when you speak to experts, or since doing the kind of research into scientific, the science behind it yourself, is that standard? Is that common? Is that part of the grief process?
Yeah, anger can be a big part, because, I was angry at him. I was angry that he didn't change the way that he could have, and that I was angry that my boys don't have a dad anymore, and that there was so much on me now, and there was a lot to be angry about. But then they're my feelings. They're not other people's feelings. And I have to acknowledge that those feelings exist, but learn to let go of them as well. And that can be the hardest thing to do for anybody, is to just accept and let go and forgive. It's also forgiveness.
Oof, yeah. Even when you're talking and you're saying, you were doing the yoga practice and you were feeling in your body, I still don't really understand what that means, because let's say I've gone through, a traumatic experience or some kind of awful thing, even if it's just to do with stress or burnout or a breakup or, those kind of that level.
Yeah.
I struggle to understand how I'm recognizing feelings in like the sensation in my body. I don't know if it's because I feel more like numb to things or ADHD, busy brain. I'm not good with the neural signals or something. I don't know what it is, but I struggle with that. And I even remember when I was at Techstars, we had this amazing coach kind of doing this, I guess, like a guided shut your eyes, kind of think about things. And I was like, in the process, trying to do it. And I was like, but can you give me examples of the kinds of things that people say so I can understand and try to identify? Because I have no idea where to go with this. Like, I don't know what to even identify, kind of thing. Yeah. And so I'm a bit like, how do you figure it out?
It's a really good question, because everyone is...
Am I broken?
No, of course not. But sitting in stillness might not be the best thing for you. So for you and, for a busy brain, and there's one... People forget that yoga exists to prepare for meditation. And that's where yoga started. It's to get that movement and get that nervous energy out of your body so that you can sit in stillness. And so not everyone can do that. So for you, it might be better off to do a walking meditation or
meditation in motion. Love that.
Absolutely. Or just walk on the beach in bare feet and feel the grounding under your feet. Or breath work, which again is... It's so transformational, but everyone's different and it's finding what's good for you. And that's where I think right now in society, everyone's told, just go meditate, go sit and, find that stillness. And stillness can be counterproductive for many people, and from a clinical perspective, a psychologist would never say to every single person, you need to meditate, because it might not work for you. And it can, if you're not great at sitting in stillness, then you need to find what works for you. But as far as feeling your emotions, it's, again, you might feel it, you might get a stomach ache. Kids often will get a stomach ache when they're feeling stressed or anxiety. So it's where you feel it in your body, and your body might send it anywhere. But I mean, I'm not a doctor or a psychologist, but it's really understanding that's no one's the same.
Yeah.
And what works for me might not work for you.
That's interesting. Maybe I get stomach aches.
Yeah.
Maybe I actually do.
Little kids often will get a stomach ache or throw up in the morning if they have anxiety.
Yeah.
And that is, it's often a signal for parents.
This is a good segue into kind of, what's actually happening in the body scientifically. And this is where I want to ask you all those sort of silly questions.
Okay.
You know the answers.
I don't know if I will.
No,
I'll give it a go.
When we're thinking about, grief and emotions in general, and then we're thinking about stress in like this category and emotions over here, and then we've got nervous system over here. Can you try and give me like a very simple breakdown of how these are all these buckets are interacting with each other, like in the body? Like, what is the system at play here, from like brain and mind and thought and soul to like where stress and anxiety and like the neuro kind of like, how does it all fit together? Like, and I know it sounds like a dumb question, but I'm kind of like, how do we unpack like what is actually physiologically happening between like your brain and your body in these moments of crazy emotions and grief and stress?
Well, I'm not a neuroscientist, but everything is connected. So, we know now that our gut affects our brain affects our nervous system. So one of my biggest pet peeves is when you sit in a yoga class or a meditation class and say, let's work on the body-mind connection. Well, they're already connected. So once you're stressed, you've got all different hormones running around in your body. You've got cortisol, which everyone is biggest topic of the moment. But chronic stress, which is ongoing, relentless stress without recovery, is causing wear and tear on your body. So, and that's called the allostatic load. And it's true when you hear from people who say, I've aged 10 years in the last 12 months. And that is true because allostatic load is aging us. So the next big frontier is going to be, how do we help reduce stress? But more importantly, how do we build in recovery into our bodies? And how do we build stress resilience and capacity in our bodies? Because the more capacity you've got in your body for stress, the more you can come down from it, you can recover and be healthier, because stress affects every system in your body. So you've got heart disease, cholesterol, you've got sleep. Stress affects all parts of your body and is accelerating our aging.
So is the way that it kind of like works, you have an emotion, i.e. grief, i.e. anger. This triggers the stress response in the body between gut and the brain, and then that causes your overall nervous system to frazzle.
Yeah, it comes down to fight or flight. So if you're in chronic stress, then you're in a chronic state of fight, flight, fawn.
And what's happening if it's chronic stress that's not coming from, like sometimes I have that feeling of chronic stress or chronic anxiety, but I'm trying to pinpoint what is the actual reason why I'm feeling that. Like, where's that coming from? And I can't even think of something. I'm like, there's nothing there. I'm just feeling that.
Yeah, because our body just gets so used to being in that state, and it may take a little trigger. It might be an extra coffee that day can then just send your body spiraling again. So, and because your body's doing the right thing. Our body is designed to have stress. Stress is good for you. And
moves us forward.
It's what has kept us alive and has got us to this point in humanity. Where we need to focus, though, is on that recovery piece. So the biggest superpower you have is recovery from your everyday stress. And chronic stress is when it's everyday stress or stress at high load for a long time without any recovery.
And is that when it kind of enters this like dysregulation because you're just out of whack? It's like just that permanent kind of, it's almost like your brain and your body just can't get to the recovery or can't switch back to regular, even though there's nothing, like there's no threat to you in that moment kind of thing.
Yeah. And at some point your body will stop. Your body will force you to stop. And that's what burnout is. Burnout is when you get to that point where your body is, I've had enough, and it shuts down. Your body will literally shut down. So we don't want that to happen.
We don't like it when that
happens.
We
don't like that. It's not the nicest feeling.
So when we talk about like emotional dysregulation and nervous system dysregulation, this is still where I'm like not super clear on like what's the difference. Is emotional more like your mind and your thoughts, and nervous system is like the physiological side of it?
So there's
because I'm like, am I emotionally dysregulated, or my nervous system is dysregulated? Like I don't know how to answer.
They're interlinked.
Okay.
So they can be the same thing. So if your nervous system is dysregulated, then your emotions will be dysregulated.
Oh, so that's
how it works.
Right. So it's like my nervous system is fried, I'm frazzled, I'm chronically tired or burnt out or whatever, or that's the feeling that someone has. And then that also can cause your emotions to be like, I'm angry even though I don't know why.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
And does then, when we add into the layer hormones, does that also just add another spanner in the works when we're thinking about the differences between men and women?
Absolutely. So then the next layer that you have for women, particularly in perimenopause, is you've got progesterone slowly coming down, which is our calmness. Progesterone is what, because that's when, so for instance, PMS, every month, if you're going through a monthly cycle, you feel that anxiety and the anger, and that's progesterone dropping.
Is that also that feeling of like, oh my God, the world is ending, I need to like shut my business down, like I'm done?
Yeah, do you have that every month?
I have it often.
But at the same time, you've got your estrogen, which is up and down. So, but those sex hormones help affect every other hormone. So there's cortisol, which again is the one that everyone's talking about. So progesterone helps counteract your cortisol. And so at the moment, once you've got women hitting their 40s, so their sex hormones going up and down, and their cortisol is slowly going up because it's harder to manage. And then that's affecting every other system in your body. So, and that is why you've got women who are having more heart attacks in their 40s. And it's the biggest killer of women in that age group is usually heart issues.
Wow.
Yeah, it's all fun.
God, there's a lot to there's a lot to know. And I also get stuck in that trap of like, okay, well, I want to know all the things and I want to understand, but then you're kind of like, okay, well, then there's just so many things in different directions that we're needing to be taken care of about when it comes to our health and our wellness and our mental health. And then you kind of get lost in a bit of a vortex of like, okay, so where do I start? Like, what's the way to like zone out and understand how to access the toolkits that are like helpful for where you are right now?
Yeah. And that's not to say that men aren't struggling in that age group as well, because there's more to hormones in midlife for men and women, because it's families, it's jobs, it's old aging parents, it's younger kids. You know, we've got kids everywhere from any age, from young toddlers to grown-ups still living at home in all of my friendship groups. You know, I've got friends that are grandparents and I've got friends that have got 3-year-olds, because, you know, we have kids at all different ages now. So you've got so much happening, and the world and the medical system is still very focused on hormones, and there's so much more to perimenopause and menopause than hormones. And what we need to understand more is, how do you actually flourish through that time of life? And that's one thing that we talk about at AIR. And, you know, obviously we're a supplement company, but we want to help women find more joy in this time of life, because everyone is fear-mongering. It's all hormones and fear and the world's going to end, but it's not. It's an amazing time of life. It's a time that we rebuild who we are, where we're growing through a different phase of life, and, you know, that's something that should be celebrated as well. So I think there's so many amazing things with this time of life that we should be focused on.
What's been the best decade so far? Well, actually, that's a silly question. There's probably not a great decade there.
No, I think this one is shaping up to be amazing. I think once you hit, actually, no, I think I've got to stop saying I think. I know that this age, I know so much more about myself. I can understand other people better. I have more ability to do what I want. Less, as they always say, less F's given to other people, because you become a little bit more sure of yourself. You've lived through a lot. You can't get to 50 and not have had some type of grief or trauma or, you know, a multitude of different things. You've lived life. I loved my 20s. My 20s were travel. You know, I backpacked, lived overseas. You know, I was finding myself. I had a great time. My 30s were definitely revolving around work and, you know, cementing myself. My 40s were pretty much a schmozzle of, you know, survival. 40s were survival, but amazing things came out of my 40s. But 50s now, I'm super excited about. You know, it's a fun time. Stop being scared about growing older. It's amazing. Growing older is awesome. You know, and I truly wake up and think every morning I wake up is a gift. And more people should feel like that as well.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at OmniSend. If you're an e-com founder, you're probably paying premium prices for features you've never even touched. But OmniSend gives you the same power, email, SMS, segmentation, advanced automation for up to 35% less than the big names. And their customers generate $79 back for every dollar they spend. And that's not some standard marketing claim, that's their actual data. Experts trust it, rookies love it, and if you're switching from another platform, their team handles the whole migration process for free. Use code FSC for 30% off your first 3 months by going to omnisend.com/FSC or clicking the link in the show notes below. What do you think the kind of myths or misconceptions about entering perimenopause and menopause that exist, kind of like the old way of thinking versus, what the new research and science shows?
I think the biggest one is a mental shift because, we've always, you grow up thinking that perimenopause and menopause is old. So you've got to come to terms with
that's so true.
Aging.
When I was little, menopause was like a big deal.
It's like, oh my God. And we're not like that. Even you see people on TV now, we're not portrayed the way it used to be when I was in my 20s. It's fun and, we've just got to embrace being the amazing women full of joy and life that we are. So we're not packing things up. So the biggest one is mortality and aging has been, a big one for perimenopause. But the good thing is that people are talking about it now. So people weren't talking about it 15, 20 years ago. And you've got an influx of Gen Y hitting perimenopause now, and they've lived half their life on social media. They've talked through marriage and fertility and kids, and they've lived that. And now they're coming into perimenopause. They're talking about that too. And that is brilliant. It's joyful. It's amazing because no one's going to put up with shit anymore. It's, we want to find solutions. We want to live life. We want to have the knowledge. And, again, it comes back to knowledge. Having
Absolutely, that. Yeah. We have access to the toolkits before we even know that, that's the toolkit we might need. But there's more discussion and dialogue around all these different elements and aspects of the journey of life, or I guess the experience of human behavior and what happens. And
sharing. Community is the biggest part of flourishing in life. So sharing everything that's going on and understanding and having that feeling that you're in a community with other people is an absolute blessing.
What do you think for you when it, going back to kind of grief and how you were processing grief in the early months following, what were the key things, including community, that made a difference for you, or how people showed up for you during that time?
I feel that I was more just taking control, and that's who I am. I'm not saying that's the best way to cope with things, but my natural instinct in any kind of situation is just take control and move through it. And that's what I did. And it's not necessarily the best thing. So I don't know that I had a community that was really strong. I had some really great people around me. In the first 12 months, I moved house. I moved to a new we sold our company. I moved house. I started a company. I moved my boys to a new school.
Oh, wow. Lots of change.
I did a lot. And that was what I needed. And the boys just had to go along with it. But they see now why I did all of that. And there was an element of me wanting to get away from elements of the life we were living that were unhealthy. And so I had to do that to move forward. That was the way I moved forward. And again, everyone's different. But, I think the next one was after I moved, I did my year of yes, where I said, I just thought I've lived in this darkness for a while, and I was quite insular. I just moved and I felt closed down, and I just set myself a little challenge of I'm going to say yes to everything.
So what did you say yes to? What are some out there examples?
That's when I started pole dancing. That was one of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I did pole dancing.
Lisa the pole dancer. Yeah. I didn't know that about you.
I feel like everyone knows that. Not well. Let's get one thing straight. Not well. what I said yes to, just little things. Like my first one was walking down the street and saying hello to everyone walking their dog. I said yes to every coffee that was asked of me, like, at new school, new mums. I said yes to coffees. Someone invited me to a ball, like dress up, and I didn't know anyone. And for me, social anxiety, saying yes to some of these things weren't that easy. I went on a few dates, which I never thought I would do, and I bought a mini convertible, and
Okay.
everything, like
I
all
love
different things.
this.
And that was probably that first, I don't know, I felt like I was rebelling against myself, which was fun.
That is fun.
So it was a year, and it finished on my 50th birthday.
Okay.
So, and I had the biggest party for my 50th, and it was at my new house, and I had everyone that I loved come, who'd been on the journey, for want of a better word, and part of my life. A lot of people have been all through my life, and we had this big come as your alter ego party, and it was
Come as your alter ego party. I love that.
So I was the absinthe fairy, and
you're an absinthe fairy.
I was the absinthe fairy.
I don't know too much about the absinthe fairy.
Oh, she's fun.
She's fun.
People kept saying, "Oh, you're Tinkerbell." I'm like, no, I'm meaner than Tinkerbell. And a friend of mine paid for this 8-foot drag queen to come and perform for us, and it was crazy and fun, and not something I ever thought I would do. And that was my end of my year of yes. And I think that's what set me on the path for all of this and the study. That's where it started.
That was my next question. Did that year of yes change, ongoing? Did that bring in kind of a ritual or behavior around really starting to think, not always saying yes to everything, but being more open to different things or pursuing things that instead of it just being a little bit, oh, I wish I could do that. Or imagine if you were like, oh, I am going to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. That changed my life. It's because I started, I traveled, I took the boys to Canada, I've taken them to Kenya now, we went to Lapland, and I'm so fortunate that I could do that with them. But, a few years ago, we might not have done any of that. And so that's again when I started studying. It all came about because of that year of yes. It changed my whole focus in life, my view of looking at life, and it kind of just escalated. We got to the point where I would have friends. One friend sent me a message saying, I think you should go and have a snail facial. And I said no to that. But people got to the point, like my business partner, Kate, would say, I'm too scared to even suggest things now because I know that you'll do it. And that I would joke. Because then I had to put in a new rule that was, yes, sure, I'll do it, but you have to come with me because you suggested it.
Oh, okay. That's kind of fun, though.
It got a bit
out of control.
Yeah, because I didn't tell anyone for the first 6 months. It was purely a me thing.
A personal thing.
And then I started saying, oh, I've been doing this year of yes. And then I'm like, what?
What? Let's do stuff.
Yeah.
Is there any R-rated examples that you even said no to?
Oh, not that I said no to, no. There was a few different things that I did, yeah.
Pushing the boundaries?
A little, at times. Pushing my boundaries, not other people's boundaries, but probably mine, yeah.
Do you think that people listening who maybe have gone through, even if they're just going through a bit of a low season, a bit of a shitty time, should they adopt the year of yes mentality?
Well, yes. Of course I would say that. But you got to do what's right for you. And it can be little things. I think it's like everything I mentioned. It's not changing your life in some big grand gesture or movement. It's all those little things that add up to change.
And I think it's also it kind of like reinforces within yourself that you can do these different things and you can push your own boundaries, or you can kind of put yourself out of your comfort zone and see what's on the other side, which is also kind of around we've spoken about this before on the show, that notion of the cost of success is embarrassment.
Mm-hmm.
You do need to say yes or just try a little harder and be prepared to fail and be prepared to be embarrassed, but see what's on the other side. And then one day you wake up and you're there. And I think a lot of overlap between those.
Absolutely. I mean, even starting a business, the hardest thing for me has always been putting myself out there, like even doing this and social media. That was the hardest thing. And I've got used to it now. And I love talking to people now.
Yeah.
But that was really hard. And that had to be part of, and it wasn't until someone said to me, oh, it doesn't matter, because if someone doesn't like what you're saying, they're just going to keep scrolling. And if they like it, then and they're interested in what you've got to say, they'll stop and they'll listen. And I thought, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Why should I care?
Yeah. You know, when I started the podcast, I mean, my internal version of me is so like negative in a dialogue, like very internally shy and awkward, but I can present as very extrovert. And when my husband and I, like in 2019, I was just starting to do these, you know, silly little interviews. And he was like, you should start a podcast. And I was like, absolutely not. Like, I want to vomit just at the thought of you suggesting that. Like, I feel like I had an allergic reaction. I was like, God, no. No, do you know me at all? But then the deeper feeling was, but I wish I could do that. And I wish that I was someone who had the confidence to talk, you know, publicly to more than 2 people. Like, I wish that I could talk on stage. And then because I had that feeling of like, I want to try to be someone that is that person and that version of what I would want to be.
Yeah.
Look where I am now, 700 episodes later. But if I had have let that fear just keep me down, I guess, all the things that are so great in my professional career that wouldn't have happened. Like, what a tragedy. I think it's so important to challenge yourself and to be like, but what if? And then take the step or take the action or say yes.
And the podcast is good because it's one-on-one. So it's not that.
But even that, I was so nervous at that at the beginning.
I mean, I can get up and speak in front of a group of people on stage, but put me in a room where I have to interact with 30 people that I don't know.
It's hard.
That freaks me out more than anything.
My mum said that, we were talking about this the other day, my mum was like, it's just so mind-blowing to her that I have a podcast or that I'll go and speak in front of people or whatever it is, because she's very shy as well as a person. But she said that I used to be the kind of person that the school would have to call her and have to come and pick me up because I wouldn't be able to stand in front of the class and do my presentation. I'd be crying or hyperventilating or something, and then mum would have to come and get me and take me home. And she's like, it just blows my mind that's, you know, that version of you to like today you. There's a big change.
Yeah, I know. We're crazy.
I want to kind of get into more of the practical tools. And my thinking is that there are different tools when we're talking about grief and trauma at a certain level, and then the bucket of kind of stress and chronic stress and burnout, but there would be overlaps. So I want to kind of understand more of the practical tools that you've kind of adopted outside of what we've already touched on.
Yeah.
And also kind of what the new emerging research is that is kind of like, you know, the present day.
Okay.
Do you want me to give you some ones to start with? I've got a bunch here that we can talk through.
Okay, that we can do it either way. I mean, it's a really complicated one to answer because everyone's so different.
Okay, well, let's talk about you. Let's talk about you dealing with, we can start with you dealing with grief specifically. And, you know, we've covered the year of yes, but was there also kind of, you know, other things that you were doing based on what your therapist or experts were telling you?
I meditate every day. That has been big for me, game changer.
What type?
I do Vedic meditation. I can be a bit lax. I mean, I'm definitely not perfect. The last couple of months I've gone through a renovation, final assessments, and it's definitely gone by the wayside. So I'm trying to get back into that again. But it's finding that ritual that sits with it. So for me, it's coffee when I wake up, sit on my balcony, meditate. Journaling has been massive. The best thing about journaling is you can just write whatever you want.
Let's talk about journaling. I've only just started and it's been a bit of a challenge.
The main thing is
What do you write? What do you actually say?
I
You're a beautiful writer though, so.
Oh God, not in my journal. Half the time I couldn't even read it. If you looked at the writing, you couldn't read it. It is just the way I explain to people is journaling is a way to get out what's in your head without having to actually tell somebody.
Yes.
So
okay.
it could be just a stream of nonsense.
Right. And so it's fine to be just jumping from one thought to the other and this and that and this and that.
Yep, because no one's reading it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think of it as a way to just clear the noise out of my head to start the day. So sometimes you might have feelings towards somebody or be worried about something. And because you're thinking about it, it's rolling over and over in your head. But sometimes just writing it all down, it gets it out of your head into something that's tangible. And I know people who, you can burn it after you write it. It doesn't have to sit there forever, and it's not something to read. It's not something you'll go back and say, dear diary. It's just write it down, get it out. You could just say, dear whoever, I hate you today. I'm having the worst day. This is what you've done to me, blah, blah, blah. You can just get it out and it's done. No one's going to read it.
Feelings are so weird, and the narrative of like how we tell ourselves things is so weird because even you saying that, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I feel that I could write that. Then I go back to feelings and like thought when like that to me seems like, quite, because there's some layer of like, whatever story I tell myself in my brain. That's so interesting.
Rip off that Band-Aid and write it down.
Yeah.
Because it just gets it out there.
Yeah. I did read recently because I was struggling with the journaling and I would set a timer of like 15 minutes to be like, okay, I'm just going to build the muscle first and then we can figure out the specifics later. And I was struggling with it and someone had said to me, or I read somewhere, I was writing too much like factual about the day. So like I did this and then I did this and then I did this. And they were like, you need to be thinking about just like pick an emotion and start with emotion around, something might have happened and I feel this. So that I was trying to like move away from just being like documenting every single point in my day.
But that can be some days. Some days it might be, oh, I did this, I did this, I did this. So what? It's like you said, it's a mental muscle. Or you might, I don't know. I mean, it can be a record. It can be a record of what you did that day. But it, like you said, it's just starting somewhere. You don't have to I leave my journal mid-sentence.
Oh, okay.
And just go put it down. And some people love journal prompts. And in my experience and knowing what I'm like as well, it's about being that perfectionist. I want to do journaling and I want to do it right.
Yes, same. I'm like, okay, here's my timer.
Yep.
What am I going to write about?
and then already you're putting pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
So think of it as clearing the noise. It's just clearing the noise that's in your head. And then that in itself gives you more space for creativity, which is what I love about it, because I can then just forget it. It's written down somewhere, so I don't have to go back. It doesn't have to ruminate for the next week. It's gone.
How long do you think until, like for a newbie, until you would start seeing a real difference in your like overall spirit? I'm like, give me a timeline,
I feel like
please.
You want me to just give you
I need a gold star.
Yeah, see, I think this is coming back to, this is good insights into you more than me at the moment.
What is your expert professional opinion?
Yeah, I don't have one. It's just do it. Just write it down. But again, it might not be right for you, right? You know, a really good place to start is write down 3 things you're grateful for. Or 3 things that made you laugh yesterday.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I like that.
3. It's like, a friend of mine used to do these questions. You must be able to pull them out somewhere. And they're questions to ask kids. So who would you put in a rocket ship today and send to the moon?
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. So make it right for you, whether it's fun or it doesn't have to be so serious. Everyone makes everything so serious.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to look up that version of it.
Like,
what would you ask
journal?
kids?
I think it's card games or...
And it gets you into the flow. It breaks the first barrier of just being like, okay, well, now what?
Yeah.
a blank page here and I don't know what to do.
Yeah. And particularly I think if you're creative, you kind of need, I like creativity. I like things that I think, oh, that's different. That's how I want to do it.
On the kind of, same thread as journaling, you are a writer. You do write publicly and share kind of longer
Sometimes.
form content. Is that also part of a healing process for you?
It has been, yeah. So I did a lot of writing. I'm a bit haphazard about it. I have my Substack that I write occasionally. And that's more just, I might not write for 3 months and then I'll have this thing in my head I just want to get out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll sit and write till like 1 a.m. and then publish it before I can talk myself out of it. And, that's just practice. It's a muscle. I want to do more writing. I love reading really beautiful, glorious writing with amazing words. And that's what makes me happy. So if I can try and do that better, then that's my challenge to myself, is learning how to write more strongly in my own voice.
What are some of your like favorite words or amazing words you've seen recently that are out of the norm?
I love it when people kind of make up words.
Oh, okay. Like what?
I don't know. It's just, I love the words like glorious and fantabulous and just, I like words.
Extravagance to
yeah,
words.
I love a frivolity. I love people who write with abandon and use those types of words.
Oof.
Because, well, now with AI too, everything just sounds the same. And you can really hear when someone puts themselves into it. And that's, I don't know, it just brings me joy.
Yeah. I think it's his name's Alan. What's the guy who wrote, he's the philosopher who wrote The Course of Love.
Oh, gosh, I don't know.
I feel like he's really great with words. He just says beautiful words. He writes with like elegance, even if it's not a complicated word, but there's such a flow of elegance to it. And you read it and you're like, oh, that's nice. It's nicely written. Well done.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is your relationship or mindset now, having kind of like time to reflect on grief?
My mindset with everything now is to feel it, live it, let it go, and I don't know, use it. Does that make sense? I don't think that makes sense. It's more...
No, but I understand the sitting and trying to process to then find the way forward versus trying to cover it.
I try not to overthink it all anymore. I find that for me, creativity is really good for me. And so I now have that with dancing or writing or, I want to do, if I had more time, I'd be doing more creative things. I love pottery and it's just
doing things instead of a computer.
And I feel like that's something I need to be better at. And if there's anything in this world I'd love to be better at, it's being creative. Yeah.
It's good for the soul.
Yeah.
I started doing singing lessons and that's made a
brave.
big... Oh my God, it is so brave. Let me tell you, the first session, I'm like sensory sensitive, right? So like I am just someone who likes a mood and I like a vibe or whatever.
Yeah.
I walk into this singing place and it was like bright, bright lights, like middle of the day. I could hear the people next door, so I knew they would be able to hear me at my first singing lesson. And I'm a terrible singer. I'm just someone who loves karaoke. I love how it makes me feel and I love serenading people in a car, to the radio.
Yeah.
But a terrible singer. Anyway, I walk in there, I didn't know what to expect. And I kind of knew that we were going to actually sing stuff, but I didn't know what to expect out of a lesson. And then...
See, that terrifies me.
Yeah. Oh my God. I was so stressed, like sweaty stressed.
Yeah.
And the woman, she was like maybe 23, so a lot younger than I was. And she was like, oh, you need to pick a song that you're going to sing now, like after we'd done some warm-ups. And I was like, well, how do I pick a song that's like right for my voice and like my capabilities? I don't want to pick the wrong song. And
that's what I'm paying you for.
yeah, I was like, what song do you think? And she's like, just pick a song like on your Spotify. And I was like, help me pick. And she was like, oh, like a Disney song. And this is where I was like, oh my God, you're a lot younger than me. Like, I don't know Disney songs. Like, what songs are you talking about? Anyway, so I open up my Spotify, I pick a song. It's like the theme song of Coyote Ugly by Leanne Rimes. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
Impossibly hard song to start with.
Yeah.
I sit there or I stand there. We're looking at each other in the eyes, like face to face like this. I sing the song.
I would just cry.
Well, we're nearly there. I sing the song going from like looking at my phone for the lyrics to looking at her in the eyes, and she's just looking at me the whole time. I finish it. I burst into tears. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. And then she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, no, it's not you, it's me. I was just so stressed and I can't believe I sang that song. Can't Fight the Moonlight. That's what it was.
Yeah.
It was like hilarious and absolutely horrific at the same time because I was so embarrassed. And it was like such a insanely like hard, weirdly like close connection type thing to do. But afterwards, I was like, whew, well, that's out of the way. I'm not going back there, but I'm going to keep going to singing lessons. Like, I'm proud of myself.
Well, maybe that was you breaking through that whole nervous system.
Oh, my God.
You had that release at the end. The tears are good.
Yeah, that's another thing I wanted to ask. It's on my list.
Oh, gosh.
Crying, the benefits of crying or the scientific kind of evidence behind crying or emotional sighing and what that does to the system.
Two different things. So sighing is natural to the body. Like I said, I'm not a neuroscientist. So it's more, so what I've studied is more the systems and the, what makes life worth living is more the science I'm into. But sighing is huge because it's a huge stress relief because we take a big breath in and then we're sighing all of the old breath out.
I sigh all day.
Yeah, but what they know now is that looking at our phones and screens reduces the amount of sighs that you have.
Does it?
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
It does. So if you're scrolling, you sit on the screen, you'll notice you're not sighing. So naturally, we sigh every couple of minutes, but we don't so much anymore. It is big. And crying, yes, absolutely. It's a nervous system release. It's amazing for you. Don't hold it back. Holding back emotions is not great.
I cried yesterday.
Yeah, good.
I felt better after.
You do. Yeah.
So when we're thinking about the science that you're really, interested in right now and living a better life and specifically what does that mean to you? Does that mean things like nature and creativity and the act of doing those things or?
So that's more around nervous system regulation.
Okay.
So all of those elements, so whether there's things like nature bathing, meditation, walking meditation, yoga, breath work, there's so many different tools that you can call upon for nervous system regulation. So the science of wellbeing and positive psychology is that how to flourish in life. So it's, what makes you, it's not necessarily, the big conversation now is around longevity. So living longer, having a better health span, a longer health span. But the flip side to that from a psychological perspective is what makes life worth living. And that comes down to, different frameworks. One of them is PERMA, which is positive emotions. It's that, relationships. It's feeling like you're good at achieving something. It's finding purpose in life. So they're the elements that we talk through. And for me, health is a big part of that as well. So it's bringing together all of the psychological side as well as the physiological side.
And so how do you answer that question, what makes life worth living now?
I really believe now, particularly after the life that I've lived through to date, that what makes life worth living is having that bravery to actually live that life. And that's to be open to experiences, to love, to feel emotions, to try new things, to, I don't know, it's complicated, but it's the biggest one is just bravery to live your life. Because a lot of people become really closed in and they become closed off to opportunities, to growth, to learning, to people. You know, we all know people that have gone through a really terrible divorce and are so closed off to love. And, you know, I've been through my own trauma, you know, separation and then a death. And I never want to be that person. I want to be the person who is brave enough to put myself on the line and say that I love somebody. And that is bloody the hardest thing to do at times. And that's what I mean with living a really good life. It's how to flourish in life. And for some, that's travel. For some, that's constantly learning. For others, it's, you know, relationships. You know, just look at the blue zones. You know, so much of that is around food and lifestyle, but there's so much around that is around community and belonging. You know, every blue zone is in a region where family comes first. So it's not self-identification, it's family identification. And they're happy when the people are around them happy, whereas Western culture is very much around the I as happiness. I'm happy. So, you know, the happiest people in the world are those where they're actually making sure the people around them are happy first. So there's really interesting research around Eastern and Western culture, and, you know, there's so much that we can learn from our ancestors and from other cultures. And I find that fascinating.
Yeah, I love that. Rich in life, but in terms of health, wealth, wisdom, not material.
Yeah.
Not material wealth.
Yeah. And there's so much research around, you know, they think that money makes them happy. And there's so much research that shows that that's not the case. You know, money does not make someone happy, but it does take away things that makes them unhappy because it takes the stress.
Yeah, it can solve problems.
It can absolutely solve problems. But unless you're happy on the inside, you'll never be happy. And then there's a million other things like, you know, you're happier if you earn that money yourself. If you haven't earned that money, if it's given to you, you won't have that same level of happiness. So,
that's an interesting one.
It's like people who win the lotto often are really unhappy because they haven't earned that money.
Oh.
And that's why they often lose it all within the first 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I've read about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's so interesting.
So many levels.
My mom and I, you know, she's a single mom. I was her only child. We grew up, as I would say, dirt poor on the side of a mountain.
Yeah.
But my mum always says that she was, and she has always been rich in life. But for anyone like looking outside in, you would be like, yeah, that woman has no money. For me, I'm like, yeah, we had no money.
Yeah.
But rich in life because we had such a beautiful, peaceful, idyllic upbringing that was just based around nature and love and animals and, you know, such a beautiful upbringing. So I like when I
and that's more
think about that now.
That's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Whew, we've covered a lot of things.
We have.
We've covered a lot of things.
Yeah.
What do you want to leave us with? Anyone who's listening that's maybe dealing with stress, burnout, grief, trauma?
Find your joy and that can be really hard to grasp. And I'm not really sure what to leave someone with, but I truly believe that one phone call can change your entire life. And once you've had that phone call or you've had that moment, you'll never see life the same way again. And kind of I'm going to make myself cry now. And
you can cry.
No.
It's good for you.
It is good for you, but my makeup won't like it. You know, you have to take hold of life with gusto and live as, I want to live as hard as possible. And that's healthy in a healthy way, but it's so precious. And, I like to say that I live with radical aliveness because I feel that we need to be more radical about it. We need to appreciate every day more. And to do that, you need to take note of every little thing that's around you and appreciate everything and be grateful for every moment that we have, because everything can change in a heartbeat.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This was so beautiful. Thank you. When I see other people cry, then I want to start to cry.
I haven't. It's just a tear in there.
I can see it. I can see the tear. Oh, my goodness. This was so nice. Thank you for coming on the show.
Wow, thank you for having me. It's fun.
Open invite. Come back anytime.
I know. I feel like we could sit here for hours.
I know.